morning, or good evening to wherever this finds you. Welcome to the Fun Hog Pod with your hosts, Matt Cook and Butch Mayhew. Let's let that fun ensue.
Butch, we are live, and listeners, today we're going to start off with a very serious problem I discovered while editing our last episode. Butch, are you familiar with the YK problem?
The YK problem? I'm not. Is that what, yellow key?
No, not the yellow key problem. There's Y2K was something we discussed in a prior episode. Not that. YK is the problem. As I was editing our last podcast, I realized how often I say, just in casual conversation. And so I'm a programmer, you're a programmer, we're tech nerds. And so I did a word count of, you don't even need to be a programmer to do that, but I did a word count. How many times do you think we said, in one episode?
I'm going to guess 28 if it's a problem.
28 would be excessive. 68 was the correct answer, though. So after I started editing, I thought this was just a personal issue, the YK problem. I discovered it while listening to my own footage, and I realized you also have a YK problem. So I actually went and tallied them up individually. You outscored me 35-33 on
winning. That's what we do over here in the Mayhew house. We win.
So the YK problem. Now we're both aware of it. I've been aware of it for a little while, so I've been attempting to extract it from my speech, but we'll see how you do. You just found out about it just seconds ago. So
this will be a great experiment. This is what we're all about, running experiments that are fun.
That's right. Yeah.
And I wanted to say it right there, but I didn't.
Good stuff. Well, we're recording on a Thursday, a little against our typical schedule. Butch, you want to fill in our listeners on why we're recording on a Thursday?
Thursday? Oh, you don't want to know, man.
No.
I had major plumbing problems at the Mayhew house. So maybe you do want to know about it. Probably not, though. But just so you know, it's close. It was pretty bad. None of our toilets were draining properly, and when the Roto-Rooters guy showed up, there were fireworks in the front yard. We'll just leave it at that. It was an issue with our main line.
Ooh.
So it was, they had to get in, clean it. Once it was cleaned out, everything was good. But that was the delay or the cause of my inability to join and record earlier in the week.
Yeah, you got to get those plumbing issues taken care of. My childhood home was at the end of a cul-de-sac, and we were the low house on the street. And hurricane, I don't think it was Hugo. Hugo was the big one that came through, but one of the other hurricanes that hit South Carolina flooded kind of our area, and back to it all of our neighbors' toilets backed up into our house, and it ruined quite a bit of our carpet. Was my recollection. There's standing water. It was all in our basement, so that was at least manageable. But they brought big old fans to dry it out. It was a big old hairy
You
mess.
get the Serve Pro people come out there. Those are the professionals.
Yeah, I think it had something to do with the city, and so I believe it was their fault if I recall correctly, and so they paid to have it all done, as I remember. But I was a kid, so I wasn't worried about things like who had fault for it and whatnot, other than my house stunk. I remember that.
Oh, buddy. You should count those. Count how many oh buddies I get. It's something I've been told that I say a lot, but it's because I'm excited. Like, I get excited about things.
There's going to be some substitute phrases for sure once you become aware of it. What is your fun hog moment over the last week? So plumbing, that's not a fun hog moment. What was your fun hog moment?
It was not. My fun hog moment goes back to 2 days ago, actually. Me and Mr. Jeremy Polly hopped online and played some Fortnite, something all the kiddos play. But, old men play Fortnite too. And we got demolished. Pretty much every game. I think we made it maybe top 20 in one of the games, but it was a nice break in between work. And so shout out to Jeremy Polly and his Fortnite skills, which are better than mine.
Love that. I don't know how to play Fortnite.
Have you ever tried?
I played like maybe 15 minutes. I tried to get my boys into it. I've got 3 boys. They seem like they would be into it. It's all the rage at middle school and elementary school. I bought it for Xbox, which you buying,
bought it?
Yeah, I know. I'll confess that here on the podcast.
Rewind. So Fortnite's free to play now. If you bought it for Xbox, it's possible you have a legacy account that's actually very, very valuable. Like there's this like loophole in the way, I guess Fortnite was released, and you had to buy it at first and then it went free. Where if you have a certain version, you can basically rerun this quest that gives you like V-Bucks, which are like equivalent to real money in the game. So you should look into this. You might be sitting on a little V-Buck gold mine over there. You just gotta trade your time for V-Bucks, but you should look into this.
Can't commit to looking into it, but maybe. I remember buying the disc. I mean, it was very cheap, maybe $16.
Sure, yeah. That might be tied in. You should definitely at least look into it. Or ship me the disc. We'll figure this out.
Listeners, if you're interested in Matt's V-Bucks, please reach out.
I'll have to investigate a little more. I know there's like a loophole to get V-Bucks every day if you run this quest or whatever. So let me give you one short Fortnite story. This happened about 8 years ago, 7. Fuzzy. Things are fuzzy. This was back when we were working at Daxco. We went to Dave's Pizza in Homewood. Fantastic pizza joint. Get the barbecue chicken pizza. You will not be disappointed. And we were just hanging out there. It was buffet. And there was like a birthday party or something happening. A bunch of school kids were there. And this kid was playing Fortnite on his phone. And like all these other kids were like gathered around him. And like he won. He won the Fortnite battle because everyone just erupted with like, oh my goodness, I can't believe it. First place. It was amazing. And that was back when I wasn't playing Fortnite. But I just remember that moment as, that kid may have just peaked at that moment at Dave's Pizza, playing Fortnite on his phone, taking down the whole lobby. All right, on to your fun hog moment.
Epic. Oh, my fun hog moment also happened in Birmingham, Alabama. I returned to Birmingham this week. We lived there for a while, and for Christmas this year, my wife gave me Nate Bargatze tickets, and he's performing at the BJCC, and so we went to I've got some in-laws over in Mountain Brook, and so we stayed with them, got to see my niece play some soccer and my nephew play some baseball and just hang out with. It was great cousin time at their house. And then Abigail and I went to Taco Mama.
It's a good joint.
That was delicious. And yeah, the Justice is served. It took me a second to find it on the menu, but that's my go-to there. It's the tacos, delicious. And we went to Nate Bargatze. He is just absolutely hilarious. It was so much fun. I'm fairly certain that's the first comedy show I've been to. I may have gone to one as a kid. Do you remember Mark Lowry by chance?
Mark Lowry. The name does not ring a bell.
He was a Christian comedian, early 90s, funny guy. I think that was his name. But I can't remember if I ever saw him. But Nate Bargatze, hilarious. All of his openers were fabulous as well. His dad was one of his openers. He talks about his dad and some of his stuff. And I hit you with the there, didn't I? Man, didn't even see it. I saw it on your face.
Ring him up for one.
We'll have to have a tracker. And his dad did a number. He's older, but just really has an impressive stage presence, I'll say. And great storyteller. Aaron Weber, really funny comedian. I can't recall the other guys off the top of my head, but I thought all the openers were very funny. I actually think you have to be funnier to be an opener. When Nate Bargatze comes out, the expectation is so high. You're preparing to laugh, and he is funny. He's worked very hard at his craft.
Like you've been working all night. Like those tacos are turned into laughter at this point.
Right. So openers, you got 3 to 5 minutes. It's and the crowd's like, oh, is Nate coming up? Oh no, it's not Nate quite yet. Some more I am struggling on the even after acknowledging the problem. So it was a great time. I really appreciated the gift. Abigail very much surprised me, and it was fabulous.
Wonderful. Love it.
Butch, our word this week is
tickets.
What was the first thought that came to mind when you heard tickets was the word this week?
So my first thought or story that came up just when it came to tickets was back in, this is pre-Daxco days. This is like 13 years ago-ish. It's back when, Auburn was in the national championship. If you remember this.
Cam Newton.
It's Cam Newton time. And I had a boss who was, big Auburn fan. He had like the box seats and everything. And he got 6 tickets to the game. And they were ginormous. I mean, they were like 8x10 size is what it felt like. Maybe a little smaller than 8x10. But they were ginormous. They were colorful. And I got to hold them. And I took a picture with them. I posted on Facebook. And they were not mine. And I did not use them. But it was really cool to just hold those. Be like, look at all these tickets. That's the first thing that came to my mind when I thought about tickets is just that experience, because that was a pretty big deal. Yeah. But that also led me down the path of just thinking about cool moments that you might see a ticket for or anticipate coming, and that just being a fun thing. It's fun to anticipate big things, whether you're holding tickets or maybe you have a ticket on your phone or just something you get excited about. That's fun.
Yeah, tickets, building up that anticipation.
What's the first thing that came to your mind?
Before I get to that, I'll tell you briefly. KG, his nickname is Kevin Garnett, is the big ticket. That was the very first thing that came to mind. Phenomenal basketball player. He's got a potty mouth, but he's very fun to follow on Instagram for his outrageous takes on everything. Not outrageous, that's not quite the right word. He provides a lot of backstory that most people don't tell you about, the inside of what's going on in the NBA. So I was thinking about the big ticket, but your story reminded me of something I wasn't thinking about when this must have been my senior year. I grew up a Georgia Tech fan. I was exposed to Clemson a lot just living in South Carolina, but I didn't decide to go to Clemson until it was really my senior year. I went and visited Georgia Tech. We went to a football game. There were not many people in attendance. The atmosphere just wasn't great. And sure. Georgia Tech was playing at Clemson the next week. And Clemson really wasn't on my radar at this point. And I went to the Clemson game, and it was super fun. And it was, people were so into it, and the whole day was based on it. And it was phenomenal.
So Clemson won you with a pair of football tickets to go see Georgia.
Georgia Tech, yeah, Georgia Tech. They did, and then this is actually the real ticket story here. So there's tickets, but my senior year for Christmas, Clemson played in the Peach Bowl versus Tennessee. That may have been Peyton Manning's last game. I'll have to check that one. But played Tennessee And my parents for Christmas, they often give unusual gifts in stockings. That's not quite the right way to frame it. They often give things in stockings that aren't quite gifts. Toothbrush, toothpaste, deodorant,
Socks.
things of this nature. Well, this year I got 2 cans of peaches, and I really like fruit, so I just really didn't think much of it.
This is like the peaches like dipped in the sugar sauce.
No, this was diced peaches in an aluminum can, just like you would get green beans or corn, whatnot.
Yeah, but it's like sugar sauce. I mean, it's all sugary. It tastes really sweet.
Not the
the
one
peaches
that's
and the syrup.
not the single serve for kids. This is like the family serve in an aluminum can.
Oh, gotcha. Oh,
Peaches. And so we had our Christmas experience, and at the very end my dad made some joke about, hey, you should look at those peaches. And I mean, it's like, I got all these other cool toys, I don't really care about the peaches that much. And sure enough, upon closer inspection, they had taken off the label, retaped it on there, and they put the tickets to the Peach Bowl inside of the peach container. Incredible surprise.
oh, buddy. That's
Tickets.
really exciting.
It is really fun to receive tickets as a gift for something that you're not expecting. It's a big thing with tickets. I obviously
I
I
agree.
thought of the golden ticket, Willy Wonka. Surely you thought of that, yeah?
Hey, so I'm getting a lot of like freezing. Am I freezing too?
Mm-mm.
Okay. You're like freezing and your voice is going out, and I'm like, it like comes and catches up. It's really weird. I don't know if it's my internet or what.
It's perfectly fine for me. Is it okay for you now?
It is right now, but it is it's been in and out. So just keep that in mind.
Got it.
So if I
Maybe
just
we
like I'm frozen at you, just ignore that, and I'll answer in a minute.
Got
If
it.
I talk over you. I'm sorry.
Perhaps we should file a support ticket to address the lag issue with our recording setup.
I like the perhaps in there. It's new words.
Perhaps. I thought of a golden ticket, Willy Wonka.
Let me tell you a story about me gifting tickets that I believe was a lot of fun for me and my kids. So one Christmas, one thing that we like to do or that we've done in the past is go ride around and look at Christmas lights. And one year, this is when our kids were a lot younger. So like, we've got a 16-year-old now. This is probably when he was 8 or 7. So this was a while ago. I printed up some gold tickets, laminated them, and it was a train ride in our van with they came with a bag of popcorn, and I think we had little juice cups that or little juice sippy boxes, some apple juice, and it was tickets to go do this. So we like hid these, I think, under their bed, and we got the kids in their pajamas. And we said, all right, kids, it's time to go to bed. And they're like, it's so early. The sun's still out, all that stuff. I mean, it wasn't quite out. It was like setting, but it was earlier. And they go to their beds and they see this ticket and they got really excited. And we're like running around the house saying, I got a ticket. And that was a really fun experience that we got to do a couple. We did it a couple years. We haven't done it recently. Maybe I'll have to bust them back out this year and see what happens. But that was a really fun experience that I got to give my kids for very little money. It was just the right time of year.
Love that. I've also surprised people with tickets. The best one I did, have you ever read a book called The Power of Moments?
I have not. We got to put it on our book list.
Book list. I don't know if I even recommend the book. I just said again, didn't I? Golly, it's really.
I didn't even hear it.
I feel like I'm at 14 already, and even attempting to suppress my the power moments, it's a relatively simple concept. The book just makes it a little more complicated than I feel like it needs to be. How you create moments is you exceed expectations, is what it boils down to. If you take New Year's Eve, most people expect to have a great New Year's Eve. You know, you have a big party, a lot of celebration. New Year's Eve is pretty mediocre, though, because some people go to Times Square and everybody else has to watch it. And so we're all just aware that we're not at Times Square. So wherever you spend your New Year's Eve, it's probably not Times Square. And so there's all this buildup. It's very difficult to exceed expectations on New Year's Eve versus say, hey, it's next Thursday night. There's another one. Next Thursday night. And you don't have any plans, but you have some friends come over, or the neighborhood kids get together and you get a great game of kickball going. You were expecting very little, and it greatly exceeded.
For those that don't know about that.
But that delta between the expectation and the experience is really what creates moments. So I had picked up Eli from basketball practice, and I had told him that we were going to watch the Grizzlies game, and he could tell that I wasn't driving back to our house. This was 4 or 5 years ago, maybe even longer than that. He was 6, 7, something or like that. And he could tell we weren't going back to the house. And I said, I've got some errands I need to run. And he said, well, we're going to have time to watch the game. You told me we could watch some of the game. And I said, buddy, we're not going to be able to watch any of the game on TV tonight.
Ooh.
And he's in the back. He's in the back of my truck, and he started crying. He was really sad that Dad had not lived up to his promise. And then I said, because we're going to the stadium. And it was epic. We still talk about it to this day.
Immediately.
Right. I don't regret 1 second making that epic moment. It was
That's fun.
Very
so
cool.
You're telling me it's okay to make your kids cry. He cried because he didn't critically think about what you were saying. Correct?
Well, I told him we weren't going to watch the game on TV, which previously he'd been told that he could.
But he could watch the game. It wasn't on TV. You just added that little bit in there. He could have picked up on it if he was there.
He was 6. He had no chance of picking up on that nuance. But it was great. He has very fond memories of it, even to this day.
Nice.
Let's move on to speeding tickets. Butch, how many speeding tickets have you received?
Oh, man. I don't know if I've ever received a speeding ticket. I received at least 4 tickets running stop signs. So
we'll say traffic violations.
Traffic violations. I can count 4, and I think 2 of those I paid. The other 2 I was able to get out of by doing community service. And most of these were way early in my driving career. This is before I left college. Pretty much like after college, I've had 1 ticket that I paid, which it was one of those like, yes, officer, I broke the law. What do I owe you? And they're like, well, I have to submit this report. You have to wait 4 or 5 days, and then you can go pay the ticket. And I'm like, okay. There was no online. It was, drive to the precinct and pay through the little glass thing. But, and I think it was cash. I don't even think they took cards. That was crazy.
It almost sounded like you were attempting to bribe a police officer there.
No bribing. I was willfully accepting my punishment because it was due because I broke the law. How about you in traffic violations?
I have a handful more, but not substantially. I managed to avoid them all the way to college. I was probably just more lucky than good through high school. I had a few interactions with the police for car accidents. They were mostly not my fault. And
mostly.
Yeah, my first one was in Charleston, stop sign. gotten a couple of speeding tickets. I'm going to say 7 is the total number. My last one was a tough one. We were, this is going to come up later too. The 10-year trip. Remind me when we talk about that later. But I took my boys on a trip for their 10 year. They get to pick where. Eli chose a baseball tour, so we drove it. So we went to 7 baseball games in 7 days, all from everything from St. Louis to Milwaukee, Cincinnati. It was all over.
Way north.
Yeah, it was
north and back again.
In my head is 2,000 miles of driving. I'm not sure if it was actually that. That seems a little bit high, but it was around that. So 2,000 miles of driving. We were driving from one of the theme parks to the next day baseball game. So it's 11:30. It may have been 1 a.m. and I'm in somewhere in the middle of Illinois or something of that ilk. And Eli was asleep. And this is a good question. What's your highway driving policy? I'm a big fan of 10 miles per hour straight over.
10 miles is typically where my brain stays. That seems acceptable of, hey, you're going, but you're not going to get a ticket. I tend to drive 5 miles over is typically where I'll land. But that's just a
little on the safe side. I like it. You are a cruise control person, right?
Still over the speed limit, though. Still over the speed limit.
But you're on cruise control, right?
Oh, no.
You're not one of those.
No, I don't have any fancy car. I'm driving that 2004 goodness.
You don't have cruise control in your car?
I do, but I don't ever use it. I mean, it's not like super intuitive, you know? It's like I have to click a bunch of buttons in the right order. And it's like, no, I don't want to mess with that.
There's no way it's more than 3 buttons.
There's like a click button that I have to do on my dash. It's all... I don't deal with it because I don't need to. Because I like to be in control of my own vehicle.
Man, you're one of those people that I pass, and then you pass me, and then I pass you, and it's just, man, would this guy please press the cruise control button so we can stop doing
man,
this?
I do typically get the right speed, and if I do slow down, if I'm inconsistent, I'll get in the right lane. I know my lane.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I got pulled over on that occasion. He did not give me a ticket. I believe that was the only time I've gotten out of one. But then my middle son Curtis, on his 10-year trip, we also drove. In that instance, it was up to Minnesota. But on that trip, about 2 months after the trip, they sent me a picture of my car. And it was one of those camera. So they never pulled me over at all. You know, what's the ruling on if you have to pay those? I did pay it, but if it's in a different state, can they really do anything to you? How does that work? Do you know?
I don't know how it works, but I do know that I have a traffic violation from. This is a parking violation, so maybe it's not like the Seattle police, but this one parking deck. I was in this miniature rental that we had, and parking place was small. But someone was in my lane, so I had to kind of park into the next thing over. And when I came back to my car, I had a parking violation. I ended up putting it in my backpack and never doing anything else with it. It's tied to a rental car. So I don't know. Maybe my name's out there in Seattle. If I use some money, just send me some mail. You should know who I am. I'll pay it if it comes in the mail. Maybe.
With late penalty fees and interest, this could be an expensive ticket. So, parking citation. Wow, for just being outside of the lines.
I was like barely over the line, and it was the car there before me was jacked up, and I did the best I could. I don't feel bad about not paying that.
I'm not here to judge. What about the boot? Have you ever gotten the boot on your car? Have you gotten towed?
I've gotten towed. The boot, never had the boot. The boot feels like a challenge. That feels like I'm going to find a way to get this off. I know it's not super easy, but That's kind of where my brain would go. I have gotten towed though. Towing, towing, is-
Towed inadvertently?
towing for parking somewhere in some, apartment
Hey, you took
parking
somebody's
spot.
space.
Yeah, I mean, so this was like in college. I was visiting some friends. The visitor parking is full, so I pull in here, and 30 minutes later, my car's gone. I'm like, what in the world? You got to go pay like $80 or something to get your car back. It felt predatory, especially with all the other parking spots. There was a ton of openings in the parking spot, just none of the visitor parking. But
You took somebody's spot, though.
I took a spot that was there and available.
I'm fairly terrified of getting towed or booted. I would never try to take a boot off. I didn't
feel
even
like I
consider
would
that
want to do
possibility.
that. I'm
What
go.
are you thinking, like a wrench or a hammer? Like what's your tool of choice for removing a boot?
My tool of choice would be YouTube, that joker. I'm sure there are ways, maybe a lockpick. I'm assuming there's some kind of like lock that you can undo on there. I don't know. I feel like, well, it depends, right? If I knew I was breaking the law, I would just pay it. Get the boot off, move on. But if it was like,
It is
I felt
questionable
it was
'cause
unjustly done, I would figure out a way to get out of it. Or I'd try.
Right. The boot. You bring up a good point. Parking doesn't really feel like the law. Parking feels not quite related to the law. Right? There's like, hey, I'm in a hurry, and that feels like a relevant situation. I'm terrified of getting the boot though. If I park somewhere that I know I shouldn't be, if I don't put in my 50 cents or whatnot in the parking, it really weighs.
I put stuff in the meters. Like I try to do that the best I can. Even when they're like, it's the weekend, you'll have to. I'm like, I'm just gonna make sure that thing is green when I leave, so yeah, I can be away confidently and not have to worry about it.
Yeah, here's a preventative quarter. Just go ahead and place it in there. You could use it more than the weekend. I don't enjoy parking systems. And one time I was leaving some event downtown, and they were taking our money on the way out of the parking deck, and they didn't take credit cards. And this was 2-ish years ago, pretty recently. Well, I don't have cash. I haven't carried cash in months. And so I had to get out, walk to an ATM it was relatively close, but a block and a half. And my car was blocking everybody else from getting out of the garage. And I went to the machine, and there was something went wrong with it. I can't remember. I didn't know my PIN because I don't ever get cash, something like that. And so I came back, and I was like, I'm sorry, man. I promise I'll just come back and pay you if you'll be here at another time. I have no clue how to get you. I Venmo you, whatever it takes. But he ended up, or she, I believe it was she let me off the hook for that occasion.
Did you pay him back?
No, they said, it's fine, sir. Please just get out of the way so that other people can leave. Great. Oh, tickets, man. Tickets. What's the most expensive ticket you've ever purchased? You ever gone to the Masters or anything crazy expensive?
I haven't paid a lot of money for tickets in my day. Probably the most it would probably be like a musical, like a play. I went to one of those, The Lion King, when I was here.
Lion King, Wicked.
Haven't been to Wicked, but The Lion King, and that was. I remember that being pretty pricey, but it wasn't like the crazy seats. We were in like the second balcony up.
Upper deck, yeah.
Upper deck. But we were at the front of the upper deck, which was nice.
That's a nice seat, man.
So,
that's where I sat for Nate Bargatze. They made a lot of jokes about the rich people sitting up front must not know this is a comedy show because it's no better from the front row than from the upper deck where the poor people paid $20. So
definitely that show was a lot more, the Broadway show was more than.
Sure.
That's probably the most expensive I've paid. I've definitely cheaped out on tickets, and this is a story. Chris Tomlin came. This was for like his Christmas, his Christmas playing, and I got some tickets for me and Rebecca, and we went. I mean, I pretty much went to like the cheapest possible. So this was at the Alabama Theater downtown. We get there and we go find our seats, and we're like, okay, it's not here, it's not here. We go up all the stairs on the highest, and we are in the back row on the wall, kind of in the corner. So, we were there. We, enjoyed kind of some of the opening bands, and it was good. It was loud. You could hear it from where we were, but we were like, way up at the top. I felt like we needed some binoculars to like see everything that was going on, and they didn't have like the jumbotron screens at the Alabama Theater. It was just them on the stage, and we actually had a guy come and said, "Hey, we see you're in the back. Me and my wife were together. We're dressed up. We're on date night," and said, "Hey, would y'all like to move to the floor level?" And he said, "Hey, here's 2 tickets. Move to the floor." So we said, "Sure, we'll take them." We had great seats. They were stage left, probably 5 or 6 rows back. I mean, it was kind of in front of the speakers, so it was a little louder, but we had a clear view of Chris Tomlin and band singing Christmas carols. It was fantastic. So that was probably the best value tickets we've ever bought. That got upgraded.
The power of moments, right? Your expectation was way up in the nosebleeds, and you got delivered an incredible moment.
It exceeded expectations.
I did a lot of that at Clemson. I worked at Little John Coliseum, which is the basketball arena, and I did a number of jobs there. But my senior year, I often had the comp tickets, and
nice.
Depending on you saved 100 or so for the venue had. Depending on the artist, they would reserve some. Oftentimes, Keith Urban's coming, and his group of people, he's not consuming all of his tickets, and so they get put back into this pot the day of the show. And I remember Kid Rock, oddly enough, his was the most memorable. He had a lot of extra comp tickets, and so we had so many. What you don't want is a venue. Most of the time, these are premium tickets. They're all throughout the arena. It's not just one section, but they can be relatively concentrated, the third row or something like that.
Right.
And so you don't want them to go completely unused where no one is going to sit in them. And so oftentimes you take people from various sections and just kind of make their evening. But Kid Rock, we had a really big surplus for whatever reason. And so before the event, this is 3 hours before the show or something, we were walking around, and anybody who was just a diehard fan or could make me laugh or make me smile, I was giving great seats out to. And nice. They were the most appreciative crowd, and they were really rowdy about it. It was a lot of fun. Did you
walk around with like a sign that said, "I need tickets," and you're holding some tickets? Like, let's talk about those guys and gals for a minute.
Yeah, the surprise upgrade folk.
I mean, well, one, that is a great service to people. But I'm talking about, I'm not sure if they're scalpers, but it's the people that walk around the stadiums that hold up the "I need tickets," but they also have a handful of like 50 tickets they're trying to sell, but they can't tell people they're selling it. I'm not sure. There's probably laws.
Yeah. Ticket scalper rules, they vary by jurisdiction quite a bit. I studied a little bit of this in college. It was one of my sports economics classes. We studied ticket prices because the fascinating thing, we had a great teacher who really taught a lot of interesting things, and the individual scalpers are not optimizing. So if they don't sell a ticket, let's say it's for a basketball game, that's not a premium career. You would think that person would probably rather have, let's say the ticket's value has gone down to $8. Well, they'd rather have $8 than a worthless ticket. But we could never quite figure out why the ticket prices don't just keep dropping. I mean, even for $1, right? Like
Yeah.
you have a ticket to an
Yeah.
event that is expiring in minutes, but it has to do with if they did that, then
Everyone
that would
wait.
become the normal behavior, and everybody would just kind of learn to prey on that. And it's a really impressive system how that ecosystem works together. You've got different scalpers, and you've got a head scalper, and it's a really interesting ecosystem.
So you think this is organized scalping?
It is, yeah. I'm fairly certain in most places. Some places have banned it, and so the cops will run people off for tickets. Other places,
Even if
I
they're
remember
just
the-
holding up, I need tickets. Is that how they get away with it?
yeah, they start the conversation like, "Oh, I do have some. I was just looking for more. I'm open to buying or whatnot." The Atlanta Braves had you couldn't sell them within so many feet of the stadium, and I remember back when parking was crazy at the old place that. Man, my dog is shaking over there. That's gonna be
Is that
loud.
fun?
And at their stadium, so all these people would be lined up, whatever it is, 3,000 feet from the stadium, and you couldn't go any past that. So, ticket scalpers. I don't, nowadays, man, that was some knows. Gonna be tough. Gonna be tough. I feel like you're winning the the YK problem. This came up to me. Worst companies in the world, Ticketmaster is pretty high up there for me. If you had a worst company in the world contest, who's in your Mount Rushmore worst companies in the world?
I would definitely say Ticketmaster is one of those. The fees, man. Like, I understand you got to make money, but the amount of fees you're charging for things and the way
Just list the price. I'll pay. Just tell me.
So, I don't know. I'll have to think about that one. I haven't really thought about the companies I hate. I can think about salespeople that have done me wrong, but I'm not gonna get into that right now. That I feel strongly about. But yeah, I would say Ticketmaster. It feels bad because they do have all these different contracts with different venues, and you're forced to kind of sell your tickets this way. And I don't know, it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next few years as new technologies rise up. Maybe some new contracts get signed. I don't know. Maybe it'll be good for the consumer. Maybe not. Probably not.
Yeah. Ticketmaster has cornered the market on supply, right? And I actually think they're pretty well positioned. An interesting business that has evolved as they've largely not been disrupted. I mean, there's been SeatGeek and a few of those other kind of reseller marketplaces, but by and large, Ticketmaster has held their own as the different technologies have emerged. And now it's becoming much more, hey, your phone is your ticket.
Yes.
You have to go through the
Yeah.
proper authentication channels. You can't get into a Grizzlies game anymore without a phone, that's something.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I mean, it has definitely gone that way, and that's probably makes it even more sticky, right? For people like Ticketmaster, where it's like, even if you want to buy and sell tickets, like, it's through the app, and it's wild. Or at least it was for me when I bought and sold tickets a few years back.
Same. Yeah. That's pretty annoying. I want to circle back to the 10-year trip. This is a fun concept that our family does, and it's great. It relates to tickets. So sometime during the year of their 10th year on this earth, I will take my kids and plan out a big trip. And it's tricky to do. It's a very big trip. We budget a pretty good amount of money, and I would encourage everybody to do it. It's even if your kids are past the age of 10 now, pick another year and just do it. It's really fun to see the independence that comes up. Plan an event where in our family, it's just me and my boys. We have talked about maybe doing another trip at another year where Abigail did it with them. It's just great though to see them think about what all they might want to do. challenging to narrow down their possibilities. We've constrained them to the continental United States, and roughly a week is really all the parameters they have. So we could go camping, and I mean, if you go camping, you could really carry that money quite far.
We're eating steak, boys.
Right, yeah, we're eating really good steak. But 10's a really fun year for it. They're becoming their own personality and kind of really branching out in the world. So Eli chose a baseball tour. That was a huge amount of fun. He's not as much interested in baseball anymore, but we got a lot of tickets for that. All the different venues and whatnot. And Curtis chose Dude Perfect was really the centerpiece. And since I was, I mean, we put enough in the budget. You could buy Super Bowl tickets, at least conceivably, probably sit in the nosebleeds in the Super Bowl, but you could get into the Super Bowl. I really want him to dream big. It was a once-in-a-lifetime trip. They're at a fun age, and he chose Dude Perfect. So Dude Perfect has these awesome premium tickets. So we sat on the second row. We're right in the middle of all their action. We get to go backstage, and they do
Nice.
Meet and greet where you get to interview them, and it's almost a press conference kind of vibe where the kids primarily are asking the questions, and you get to see all this cool paraphernalia. The first camera where they took their trick shot, the basketball goal that it went
Nice.
in, just all this awesome stuff. And man, that's what makes it. The Nate Bargatze the other day, it cemented that idea in my head. Tickets are one of the rare things where you have high expectations going in, and then it lives up to it. That's where, that's how I think of it. The Masters is another one I've gotten a chance to go to, and it's just incredible. But you spend a lot of money to go, and it still is worth it at the end of the day. That's tickets can really create some powerful memories.
I can't agree more.
All right, Butch, we need a 5K training update. We haven't gotten, our listeners haven't, Butch, we need a 5K training update. Our listeners haven't heard since you made your 5K commitment. How's that going?
Well, here we are. I'm on week 2. I think the first week you encouraged me to just walk or run. I think half a mile is what we were targeting. Last week it was run, walk, run. Basically, run as long as you can. So I've had a couple different exercise journeys. I've got my kids involved in this. They haven't officially committed to the 5K, but both my two boys have come jogging / running with me. They are a little faster than me, I'll just be honest. But the last go around I did this, I have a new word. I don't know if you have experienced this before, but I'm going to call it like fire shin. It's where you're running and your shins are on fire. Have you experienced this?
Most commonly referred to as shin splints.
Shin splints. It's fire shin to me.
Fire shin.
I will continue to refer to it as that. So it was a 13.5-minute mile, what I ended up with, which is pretty good. So I was getting going for the first half of it, but the second half, I took your advice and I said, hey, I'm not going to push it to the throw-up level where I can't walk anymore. So with the shin splints, I walked through it, which was still kind of painful, but I did not run. But once I, got off my feet for a couple minutes, like everything was fine. But it was definitely, it felt like my shins were on fire. And I need some remedy for that I don't know. What is that? What causes that, Mr. Coach Matt?
The shin splints?
Yes.
That is caused by being out of shape, right? So you're putting you're loading up the muscles that support your legs. You put a lot of pressure on your lower body when you run, and it just takes time to build those up. So the only way through them is just to strengthen them.
Pain and suffering.
Not pain and suffering, maybe a little bit. But it's the classic, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So One thing in running that I learned on my journey is you get stronger and faster when you recover. So you have to create some sort of load on your system. So you have to push yourself. Otherwise, your body doesn't know what it's trying to adapt to. But you must load up on your body, and then you must recover. If you don't recover, your body doesn't have time to make that adaptation, to grow muscle fibers, to strengthen the bone structure. So it really
what's
is
the
important.
recovery time frame? Is this like hours or days, or what would you expect?
It's the standard things, but everyone is going to be a little bit different. It depends on how stressful that event was for you. So just really depends on what your baseline is, and then how much you push it. Like if you run a marathon at full speed and you haven't, particularly the first or the second one, it's oftentimes 4 or 5 days that your legs are really under duress. And then one thing I read was for every mile that you run competitively, you take a half a day to recover. So on a full 26.2 mile marathon, that would be 13 days to recover. The more you run, the more you kind of adapt to being able to handle that. It just depends.
I will say the shin fire was way worse on the last time I ran than the times before. Like I felt it 2 times ago, but this last one, it was to the point of like even just walking, it wasn't going away until I actually like got off of my feet. So that being said, I think I was like 2 days ago, so I feel like I'm recovered enough to go give another go. But we're gonna stick with it, and we're gonna see how this thing goes.
Love it. Yeah. So think recovery. It's all the standard stuff. Rest. Make sure you're sleeping good at night. Drinking plenty of water. Your fluids. You want all those systems go. If you can eat good too, great on you. That's always been the struggle for me. Is when you have that kind of high cardio burn, you can really indulge yourself at dinner, and don't necessarily have to pay the price. So. But that's a very important part of recovery. Nice.
Also, no cramps recently. So I think I've been stretching real good before running. So I think my calves they haven't been in cramp mode recently. So I'm thankful for that.
Outstanding. Yeah.
So what's my goal for this week, Coach Matt?
Goal for this week is so you did a 13.5 minute mile. So the total distance was a mile?
On that go round, yeah. That was my last run.
Yeah. Well, let's try and stretch it out to 1.5 miles. Walk as much as you want to. If walk the whole 1.5 miles, but so we're really focused much more on distance. Because you're doing the shin splints and those are getting a little bit worse. Dial it back. So as soon as you feel shin splints, say just go ahead and walk, and because you said walking wasn't necessarily...
It didn't fix it the second time. I think the first time, as I walked, like it relieved it. And then I would run a little bit, and I'd feel it, and then I could walk, and it would relieve. But this last time, like it was... My shins were on fire. And they weren't on fire until I sat down. So...
Yeah. So try to do 1.5 miles without causing shin fire, as you described.
Sounds great.
And, so if it happens, then so be it. Just, slow way down. But, 1.5 miles, don't worry about how long it takes. Just we're trying to get just time on your feet. That's the primary thing we're trying to build up.
You got it, Coach. I'll report back.
Love it.
So I do have some quick listener feedback. This is from Mr. Mandarag. He texted me about the Mr. DeMeo. We talked about science videos, and I wanted to share this because he shared it with me. But he said there's another group that we should definitely check out. It's a science video related. It's called Stuff Made Here, and he has a lot of really great science content. I think the one he sent me was actually him launching a disc golf disc through a machine he built, which looked pretty cool. So if you're looking for more science videos, check out the YouTube that I just mentioned. Stuff Made Here. Thank you for that input, Mr. Mandareg.
Yeah, I love it. Listener feedback. Other listeners, send us your questions, thoughts, concerns, complaints, whatever you got. We would love to hear from you.
All right.
All right, we need to identify what is our word for next week.
One moment. Uno momento. All right. We got it. It's coming in. Coming in hot. All right. I still haven't found a good way to do this yet here. Even
This is great.
This is great. You can see it.
Yeah.
Here we go. All right.
We've got 2 new words.
We have
so
new
you filled in
words.
all the words.
Yep. So we got no empty spaces. Here we go.
Noodle.
Noodle. All right. I'm excited about this. The word for next week is noodle.
Love that. I got some, you were talking about listener feedback. I got some from someone with some audio experience, and he said it sounds like Butch is pretty far away from the microphone and Matt is in a room that echoes. So I did research some homegrown. Outstanding. I researched a couple of anti-echo concepts, but haven't implemented them yet.
Well, that's great feedback. I mean, I appreciate that feedback, and I'll try to be better. Maybe I just need a different mic stand. My mic stand is like, I can't get it exactly where I want it. It's very much like too angled. Basically, I can only do so much with it, the way it's positioned. So maybe I'll work on an upgrade at some point on my mic arm. Get that rolling.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Awesome. Well, to everybody, thank you for spending some time with us. I'm Butch.
I'm Matt.
And go forth and
hog some fun.
So good.